Hello, closers. Happy Tuesday.
Yes.
And welcome to a special edition of Tuesdays with Hoffman. Today we are coming at you live from downtown Manhattan. I'm just kidding.
Thankfully, no.
Thankfully not, but what an interesting time to be streaming right now.
Yeah, a little
and to be alive.
competition on the internet today, I think.
We definitely
But,
do.
we're obviously hopeful it's a non-violent day.
A non-violent day, but
But we're still here talking sales.
we're talking sales and we're talking
Because people who want to
violence.
hear sales don't want to hear that.
Exactly.
They want to be distracted by that nonsense.
And we're talking about the real sense of what Q2 looks like for all of us.
Yeah.
And, a lot of folks talk about Q4 magic, but we're Q2 magic people here at Hoffman. And we really wanted to spend this next part of season 2 of Tuesdays with Hoffman talking about the tactics of how to be successful this quarter.
That's right. I mean, quarter one, we do a lot of strategy, and that's what we spent most of our Tuesdays talking about. We were doing it internally. And we can all, lament that the year's quarter over, we better get to work. But, quarter two is kind of magical.
It is.
So it's actually, it kind of works the right way. And if you look at, I know for me and UCC, go back for me 10, 15, 20 years of selling, 25 years of selling, quarter two is always the strong quarter. 2 and 4. 2 and 4 is always just where I'm going to, 2 and 4 is probably 70% of my year.
Yeah, that
that's
makes
not
total sense.
And the reason for quarter two being so strange is because of the weirdness of it. Quarter two, every quarter starts, in one season, ends in another. And that makes sense because there's 4 seasons and 4 quarters. But what's strange about quarter two is the emotional place that it starts and ends. April 3rd, certainly for the Northeast in the United States, it's cold.
It is.
You might have snow. You might have just gone skiing. You might be scraping your windshield. So the winter and the hangover of quarter one isn't gone. But if you fast forward to the end of the quarter, it's June 30th.
Summer's half over.
Yeah, you're a week behind. The week after is July 4th weekend. So it's almost like a quarter that skips the spring, and it does. So it has an interesting psychological effect on our buyers that we want to take advantage of.
Absolutely.
And how are we going to do that? We're going to look at talking to our leads, talking to our prospects. Take all those accounts that you were working on in March. Not the ones that are, already ready to close, but maybe the ones that you're post-discovery. So it's got some life. You've done some action items, but it's something you're really forecasting. Take every one of those opportunities and have the following conversation with them. Hey, Cece, listen, I want to make sure that I give you a heads up. I'm really focused on a big quarter two here, and our deals generally take about 90 days to close. So I'm going to be focused and heads down on new opportunities that I'm going to see might possibly close this quarter. We haven't talked a lot in the end of March, so I just wanted to check in with you so I could tell you, if we're not working now, why don't we sync up again in July? This is crazy, effects on the person you talk to. If you take that any other quarter, if you were to say to the customer, hey, I know quarter 3 is kind of crazy, let's just pick up the beginning of quarter 4.
They'd be like, okay.
Okay, sure. You kind of let them off the ropes. If they were kind of just checking things out, it's cool. But there's something about telling someone when they're still scraping ice off their windshield that I'll talk to you in July. It's like, oh my God, if I don't talk to this guy in July, this project will never happen. I'll never be able to figure out this benefit. I will never be able to employ this strategy, or I won't do this go-to-market thing. It feels so far away when you say it that you're going to get 1 or 2 reactions. If you get the immediate, yeah, that's fine, this was never a deal.
It was never a deal. And I think you really
Never
need
a
to
deal.
hear that now.
Hear it in April.
Hear it in April. Because if you burn time in April and even into May waiting for that moment, I mean, you'll kick yourself.
Yeah.
So hear it now.
But
Hear
the flip side you get is amazing. Because the flip side is what it is, you will actually hear it in their voices. They're not panicked, but they're like, no, we don't. Well, usually what they'll do is they'll apologize for their lack of enthusiasm in March. They're not going to get closer to closing. You're not going to advance a deal here. But when it works, and it does work a lot, you'll hear this oh, listen, I know things were kind of slow into March, but we are really doing a lot of stuff this quarter. And this problem is something we have to solve this quarter. So we would like to keep talking to you in April. That's the kind of reaction you're going to get. And when you get that reaction, there's a variety of things you can close for. And the biggest one is, and for those who actually go to our classes and are part of our closer community, in our Gives Gets scorecard, we're going to go for early gets here. And if you don't go to our courses, what we're saying is, this is where you close for some little things.
Totally.
So this is where I'll be like, oh, Jeff, no, things were just kind of nuts in March, but we're definitely doing something before the end of the summer. We're still figuring things out, but this is a real project. To which then I'll say, okay, then I'll keep you on the front burner then this quarter, CC. I realize though I don't have any technical qualifications for this project. Can you send them to me? Or
I don't have an org chart right now. Can you send it to me? I mean, these are the types of things you can close for in these moments. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're all playing a little bit of a game of tennis with our buyers. This is your opportunity to, is it volley? Is that the right word? Right sport? Okay. Volley something back to them. I know it's pathetic. Yeah. Volley something back to them that requires them to commit to really hit you back. And if you don't get that, then you got to go find another tennis partner to play with this summer, or else it's going to be a bleak Q2 and Q3. Yeah.
This is the flip side of another technique that we teach that I stole from Lee Steinberg. I freely admit when I steal things. Lee Steinberg was the sports agent in the 80s who they based Jerry Maguire on. Oh, nice. And he wrote a book called Winning with Integrity, which I think is out of print, but you can probably get it on eBay or wherever you can get it.
You can get it on Amazon now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. It's a great book. And he talks about the importance of keeping opportunities alive with optimism. Mm-hmm. So, and what and the line I kind of took and kind of made my own is whenever I feel like we're at logger jam on a deal, typically toward the end, but if you're like, they don't want to give up net, whatever, you don't want to give up that discount, you feel like you're stuck, is when I'm stuck, I will immediately say, oh my God, we are so close.
It's our favorite.
We're so close. Even when you're not. And there's something about the person, and we use this metaphor of sailing, there's something about the confidence in the captain that really carries the day when people want to actually get the deal done. This is like the opposite. So instead of me saying we're so close, this is where I start to doubt. So when the prospect says, oh no, we still really are going to do something, and it's been crazy in March, but Jeff, we're not going to let the summer go without making a decision. I don't say we're close, I say we're far apart. So I'll say something like, okay, well, if that's the case, CC, we are behind. I mean, you keep talking about this buying committee, I don't know who's on it, who's on this committee. Or who in your org doesn't want this? Because you would have bought this already, I know it. Like, who's the anti-champion? Or have you looked at any competitive bids? And who are you planning on talking to? Have you mapped out your competitive landscape? I'll help you with who you should talk. Like, I am going to basically challenge my customer to say, you say you're really working, but you're really not. Prove it. Not prove it with a forecast or a verbal approval or something nonsensical. Prove it with some action.
Totally.
So I will look at those early gets. I'll think about those lighter, like cell phone numbers and org charts and connections on social and events that they'll go to. Whatever those little things are that get momentum. Because Lee Steinberg says the whole point of it is you never want to lose the feet moving.
Totally.
When the feet stop moving, the deal dies. So even if it looks like it's not going to close, you got to have things that they can keep walking, because the rule of commitment is so powerful. The longer someone's engaged in a process, the more likely they want to see that process completed. So I love doing it. It purges about half of the quarter one deals, as they should, because I do want to work on fresh opportunities in the quarter. And anyone that's still kind of there, I've challenged them to step up, because right now I'm looking at you like a prospect I haven't called yet. And okay, I'm letting you in on this call. Give me something to leapfrog the 10 cold calls I'm about to make. And the fear of losing out on being able to make a decision until July 4th will be impossible for anyone with even a small amount of power to stomach.
Okay, so I have so many thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Number one, if you don't want to do this technique, like, okay, don't do it.
Don't do it.
But here's your alternative. If you don't do this, your only other alternative walking into Q2 is to literally kill everything that you had been working on that didn't close in Q1 and start fresh. That's how you should be thinking about your pipeline right now, because Jeff is right. The deals that you should be working on right now are the net new ones. So this would be, I think, a really great way to say, like, for those of you who are like, I would never, I have to save things in my pipeline. Okay, this is your Hail Mary move to go ahead and do it.
The opportunities in quarter one are largely hangovers from December.
Correct.
And early tire kicker window shoppers. Like, if you look back to like 22, 21, 20, 19, and you've been in sales for a while, look back at your years and look at if you keep good records or you use the CRM for that period, take a look at the deals you closed in the calendar year, how few of them started quarter one. It's amazing. You would think statistically it's 25% each. It's not. You get about a third of your deals that close in the year start in quarter two, about 25% in quarter three, and 50% in quarter four. It's like 10% of the deals that most people work on in January actually close. So January, February, March is really just pulling on whatever was left at the end of the year and maybe starting to do some early kind of, we're thinking about this and that and the other. The year is now quarter over, which means that most organizations only have one quarter left to do something that will impact the year.
Yep.
Because anything they do in quarter three won't really impact the calendar year. So if you're selling anything to IT or finance or sales or marketing that has any impact on a real ROI, not the kind of crap we build, but I mean real ROI, like we do this and we're going to save money. We do this and we're going to make money for real. Quarter two is the only chance they have to do it and have it matter on the balance sheet for the year. So that's why quarter two is always magic.
Always. Okay, so something else out of this. Well,
Yeah.
two other things that I want to highlight here. Number one, you said like an early close, like cell phone number. One thing that I know I'm doing right now, we're 2 days into Q2 here, but I'm going heavier on cell phones than I ever have before. Meaning this, if I'm engaging with someone who maybe previously bought from me or someone I maybe talked to a year ago, my first point of contact with them is going to be on their cell phone. Now, you remember, if you've been around long enough with Hoffman, we don't call people on their cell phones that haven't given us their numbers directly. So these are people with whom I've already done some type of cell phone exchange, but I'm sure I have buyers on it today that's like, funny enough, I just got a text from CC this week. That's right, because that is how we're engaging people quickly. I think so many of us are conditioned when we get an email in to kind of either ignore it, put it into a maybe I'll deal with later folder, or maybe some of us are incentivized to answer that quickly. But when it comes from a salesperson, you know how easy it is to ignore that email. Text message, much harder to do that. And I think it's a really good place to re-engage and start this next step of the sales process
100%.
with people who you already have relationships with.
Tie that back in what I'm saying about April, whether you've kind of rekindled the deal with this approach or you're just working on an opportunity in April. Think about what CC's saying. Challenge yourself. I mean, we do. Challenge yourself saying, okay, once I get to this marker, and I'll call that marker, let's say discovery. Like once we've gotten past discovery and we're in action item land, challenge yourself in the month of April. I am only going to communicate with my prospect via text.
Oh, what?
Think about that for a minute though, right? I mean, for the ones that I've kind of pulled in with this April FOMO idea, for her to blow off an early text from me after she said, no, we are going to do something this quarter. I'm not sure we're going to buy from you, but we have to make a decision in the next couple of months or we're screwed for the year. And then I were to text her and she ignores the text, what she's saying. She's saying, I was just kidding, or I'm not really into it. So she has double, triple reasons to just respond. And what you want to do with texting with a prospect is that you want to make sure the first text you go back and forth are penalty free. See, you don't want to have like, text, she texts back, and then I hit her with a whammy like, can we meet tomorrow? Or can I talk to your boss? Like, you do not close people with texts that you don't text with a lot. What's better is that you have that short question. Oh, I forgot, CC, at the meeting, did you say that it was the director of ops or the director of sales ops that's on the team? And then she texts back, sales ops. And then all you text back is TY or little thumbs up emoji. Oh, that was a quick answer. Great. I was able to outbox it quickly with him. He's easy on text. Text becomes a safe place for us to talk. Now you are communicating in text in April. You can really start to move some deals along. So please, please, please don't get greedy when you text. Nice, let them know, simple outbox. And now, once you've done that, email is like where all the losers play, and you and her are on texting. So that's strong stuff.
Okay, so a couple of things on that, because I know the millennials. I myself, I'm a millennial.
So am I, sort of, I think.
No, you're not.
No, I'm an X. I'm not a millennial. What am I saying? I'm an X.
You're an X.
You're a millennial. Sorry.
Because you would never say if you were a true millennial.
I'm an X.
You know, we hate TY and THX. It's so passive aggressive and the like when someone likes
sorry,
one of my
I didn't know
texts.
that.
No, but this is good. No. I'm saying this for a good reason. We think it's so passive aggressive to each other. But if you are talking to someone who maybe is a bit more seasoned, it's a really great place to establish social value. When you're texting, part of the issue with establishing social value is people are just not economic enough with their words. They are overly verbose. They over-explain themselves. text, it's weird to do it. So it's a really great place to grab back if you feel like you've lost social value with someone or you want to establish social value with someone. It's a beautiful place where you can quickly shoot off those quick, piffy little texts that Jeff is talking about, get that engagement back, and just give them the like response, which allows you to reclaim some of your power on the deals that you're working on.
And I say like one of the greatest buying signals is an unsolicited text from a prospect. But if you haven't established a text relationship, you'll never get it. They're not going to out of nowhere text you. It's just be very unusual. So I also want to do this to set up a standard where we text every once in a while and it's no big deal. Because if CC ever texts me to start a new thread, I mean, that's all hands on deck. This is a real deal now. Yeah. That is a humongous buying signal that I want to seize. And email, we want to leave email basically, certainly quarter two. I'm not going to get going with email again until I'm post-champion.
Oh, totally.
Like procurement, legal, contracts, post-sales,
sure.
Fine. I'm dealing with users, fine. I'm sending documents, obviously, fine. But I don't want to have any real communication on email, certainly for the next 3 months. Because I'll tell you why. You know what the email is going to be filled with? All the BDRs and SDRs that still don't know what they're doing and still using personalization as a word. No such thing. It's either personal or it isn't. And just filling up their inboxes with crap. I mean, talk to anyone in your own company. Don't take it from me. Ask whoever you sell to, find that role in your company and ask them what they think of email. Don't even prompt them. Like, and they'll tell you exactly what you already know. I don't even look at email anymore. If it's not someone I work with, it means nothing. So we really have to establish some text communications. It's pretty hard when you prospect, but when we're already engaged, particularly on those deals that were still legacy in March, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's talk about these legacy deals in March because I've got some rapid fire questions for us to answer before we move on to records. All right, if you have a deal in March that lingered, like it's at the finish line, in procurement, in legal, you've gotten a verbal, you've gotten technical win, check.
And it's not closed.
And it's not closed, and
we have two of those.
4th. We've got two. So what do we do with them?
Well, we'll tell you what we do with them. Let's assume that the expiration date is passed. My guess is it has because you wanted to get it in for the quarter. What you'll do is you'll re-engage with a brand new proposal with the same terms you've negotiated, even if you were like, this is only good for the quarter, and they know full well it isn't, because it isn't. So you'll give them the regular one, but you'll make sure that the date is 3 days away. Like you're not going to give them 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks on this next contract. It's going to be 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. And say it to them like, this is good for 3 days. Oh, I can't get it done in 3 days. Well, you're going to have to bring me back something, or this is the last proposal with those terms. So if you want these terms to stay, and you can't give me a signature in 3 days, then you have to give me something to make me think this is real, or we're starting from scratch. Because now I'm doing all my quarter 2 deals. You're no longer a quarter 1 deal, CC, so you're valued like a quarter 2 deal, which means I have 90 days to close you. And since you can't even give me anything on this proposal, so the idea is that, but this conversation can't happen unless the proposal you send has a really short expiration date. So it's cool to let your discount creep. It's not ideal, but it's okay if you don't let that 30-day contract expiration creep. Let's make it 3 days.
But I think a really good point is this. If you're going to change the expiration date to 3 days, you do have to tell your buyer this.
Yeah, they might not read it.
Yeah, exactly. And by telling them that opens the door for this conversation. You know, we love that famous Hoffman line, well, what can you do in 3 days?
Right.
But I do think you should take a little mental note of we're going to have to start from scratch, because that line, I said that last week. I know you've said that you said that last week too.
I said it yesterday.
And you did.
Yes.
I'll tell you that line, we're going to start from scratch, that's like cold water on a buyer's head, especially when you've gone back and forth with them working a deal. So that's one of those I would take a little mental note of.
Yeah.
Okay, you talked about honoring discount into the quarter.
I will for that first proposal, sure.
So next rapid fire, best prospects for you to start with in April.
So we talked before. We start with the worst.
Okay.
Don't spend time in quarter 2 with prospects that are really tied into hiring, firing. Because the truth is, in this recession that we may or may not be in, this quarter we'll know for sure. We'll know for sure if the non-tech segments start doing 5, 10, 15% layoffs, which they haven't done yet. A little bit in banking and finance, but by and large, they haven't. That's what I anticipate will happen, but who knows? But you start to, because what will happen is you'll start to see the earnings come out and there'll be downward earnings and they'll be revising downward. And then a lot of the industrials, a lot of the non-tech companies will start doing layoffs. If that happens, which I think it may, then anyone who is tied to a role that depends on employee growth and is in jeopardy if the employees shrink. And who is that? That can be IT. It's always HR. It can be learning and development. It can be ops. Whatever kind of touches that, you don't want to get anywhere near them in quarter two. They are going to be so nervous about their own stability that the idea that they're going to champion a deal that requires a cost of money, stay away from. But who do I go to? Revenue people.
Totally.
Because and heck, how many people are watching now? Their executives are like, you're like, okay, I can't make up any excuse now for the year. Like I could hem and haw in quarter one about all the craziness, but now I'm in April, and 75% of my year is left, and 25% of my year is done. I have less people than I did in January. Not sure if I can hire more, but that number is now etched in granite. It's go time. So if you've got folks that are in that, I'm not saying you have to sell to people who sell. But if you can tie what you do to revenue attainment as opposed to employee growth, you'll be better off with those buyers.
And that becomes a point of entry for you. If you're doing any type of outreach, it's a really good place to start the conversation with your buyers.
Definitely. So I was cool with you guys calling HR in January, but I wouldn't call them in April.
Okay. And right now, below the line or above the line? Who are we calling?
Definitely above the line. So we were below the line, building a lot of heat at the end of the year and then going into quarter one, and we talk a lot about that, building heat. But now it's time to get the captains on board. We got to find those champions. We got to find them fast. If you don't know, go back to the first episode of this season. You can see it on YouTube. When I go into detail on those first two episodes, we talk about finding this new buyer who's going to be the one who's going to help command their boats through the storm. Where we are in that storm, by the way, the shock of the storm has kind of waned. That's for tech, for non-tech, not sure, but kind of have waned. So what's happened now is, if we use the metaphor of a storm, you can't see the light at the edge of the clouds. So you don't know how long this is going to last. But you're getting comfortable, not in a good way, but used to the turbulence, the rocking of the boat. And the idea that, okay, now it's windy, or now I need my paddles. So the execution part now is really, really, really happening for anyone in the organization that's an agent of change. They're no longer going to have long meetings on strategy. They did that in March. Right now, it's okay, this is what we're picking. We're going to pick A, B, and C, and we're dumping D. Let's get moving on A, B, and C. So we want to look for those folks above the fold that are busier than ever.
Yep.
And who do we get to help us? Well, if you have some below the line folks that can give us some reading of the tea leaves, that's great. I'm going to look for people in the organization that have executive assistants, and that usually can help me gauge how busy they are. I'm going to look for those that are all of a sudden showing up in places they normally don't. Maybe they're testimonials on their own white papers, things like that. I am looking to see executives that are starting to row.
Totally.
So I want to go above the line.
I like it. All right. We're just getting started this quarter.
Yeah, we are.
We've got so many tactics to talk about.
We've got a lot of
so many
tactics.
things to cover.
And send us stuff too, guys. I mean, a lot of stuff we base on, we get a lot of people talking about ghosting. We did the whole thing on ghosting last week.
Yeah.
This I want to talk about the April magic, but let us know. Info on LinkedIn, on the YouTube channel. Let us know what you want us to talk about, because we are dedicated through Memorial Day. We want to get through this quarter with you. And we're going to talk about all the execution we need to. We'll talk about prospecting, sure. We'll talk about deals as much as we can. Record time.
Let's do it.
And I'm back to, I've got it all teed up now, so I won't miss one. All right, I've been talking so much about the metaphor of sailing. And springtime,
Are you doing Yacht Rock?
Oh, I live on Yacht Rock. I'm such a nerd. I live on Yacht Rock on XM. They do it all year now.
I know.
And I love it. So I wanted to have my 5 favorite sailing boat thematic albums that, like Christopher Cross would say, just sailing takes me away.
Great.
Number 5. Summer Days by the Beach Boys. How do you miss this one? Can we just talk about this glorious cover?
I know, it's so good.
Look at Dennis Wilson in the back, who's like my favorite of the Wilsons.
This is exciting now that we have this setup.
It looks better.
You can
actually
see
see it.
going, yeah.
Summer Days and Summer Nights. Any Beach Boy album will do, but this is a very sailboat one. My favorite song by them in that round is Sail on Sailor, which is in a great scene in The Departed. So next time you check out The Departed, you'll hear that song. Number 4, again, I could pick so many of them, but how do I not pick my 3 favorite harmonizing, brilliant singers. Again, just chilling on that boat. Look how great that looks. This is CSN's self-titled, but not their first album, and also just loaded with just, oh man, I just want a gin and tonic and put my docksiders up and hoist the mainsail. Definitely with Crosby, Stills and Nash. I adore them. Number 3. This is only because of the cover.
Really?
Yes, it has nothing to do with sailing other than the cover, but I love the record.
Love it.
And it's Kansas's record. I love Kansas albums. This one is Point of No Return. And I realized that, like, wow, Jeff, that's a kind of a creepy metaphor if we're thinking about sail. His clipper ship's going off the edge of the earth. But it's a prog album. These guys are from Kansas. You got to give props to a band that names itself after, like, a landmass.
Totally.
You have
Especially
Asia,
one like
Kansas, Asia, Boston.
I'm here for it.
There's so many. Type them in there more. There's more.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kansas is Point of No Return.
Landmass fans. That's your next
Landmass.
one. Yeah.
I've got a good one for next week. But okay, number 2. We just lost him 6 weeks ago. Chick Corea, beginning of the year, passed away. But what a legend! What a great album, Return to Forever. This is one of the best kind of, I guess you call it like newer jazz. This is coming out of the '60s where things were really avant-garde and bebop, and this really paints a picture of what you see here. I have played this album probably 10,000 times. This on Spotify, you will have it on repeat. Chick Corea's Return to Forever, just a brilliant album. Leads me to number 1.
Number 1.
Selling record. And if you're a generation, what am I, X?
X.
If you're a Generation X, maybe millennial, or Generation X or Boomer, and there's some of you watching, you're going to laugh when I show you this. Gordon Lightfoot, of course, the song being The Wreck of the Emmett Fitzgerald. God, that's a downer of a title. But if there was one song that makes anyone feel like they're a sea captain, it's that song. It's a terrible tragedy that happened in one of the Great Lakes, I think in the 20s. I'm not sure what year. But it's The Legend Lives On in the Chippewa. I will sing every word of that song. I will with Gordon Lightfoot for another there's so many of them, but I'm in that sailing mood. I mean, I've got the Bruins are ready to get going in the playoffs. I've got Red Sox opening day. Masters starts on Thursday.
That's
They're hitting
right.
the hole-in-one contest is tomorrow. So, or I should say, par 3 is tomorrow. So we've got all this springtime. You can really feel it. Let's get our lungs filled with salt air. By the end of this season, I'll be broadcasting from my home on Martha's Vineyard. So I'll have some cool stuff to show you there too. So they're my 5 records.
I love it.
Yeah.
We'll see all of you next Tuesday.
Yes.
Talking more tactics in Q2.
Absolutely. Happy sailing. Happy selling.